welcome back to Untitled-2 podcast. My name is Ash.
No, it's not. Confused then. I was like, yeah, that sounds right. Hang on a minute.
My name is Connor.
Which must mean I'm Ash.
Yeah.
So, you ever heard of a restaurant called The Shed at Dulwich?
Nope.
Neither did I until recently. I saw a Vice documentary, which they're alright, Vice documentaries. Not as bad as Vox. Vox has some very shit thing going on. Pretty sketchy. So this guy made his shed a restaurant and got it to the top of TripAdvisor, like ranked number 1
Wow.
in all of London. Apparently, he had like celebrities trying to call him up to get seats and stuff like that. And he's a writer. He's called Ubar Butler.
He's a writer?
He's a writer.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
Ubar Butler.
I've got he wrote the article about it here, so I'll read it out. So once upon a time, before I began selling my face by the acre for features on Vice.com, I worked other jobs. There was one in particular that really had an impact on me, writing fake reviews on TripAdvisor. Restaurant owners would pay me £10 and I'd write a positive review of their place, despite never eating there. Over time, I became obsessed with monitoring the ratings of these businesses. Their fortunes would genuinely turn, and I was the catalyst. Right? Pretty cool job. £10 a review. I mean, if you can get like 10 reviews in a day, that'd be enough money.
Yeah.
To see you out. This convinced me that TripAdvisor was a false reality, that the meals never took place, that the reviews were all written by other people like me. However, they're not, of course. They're almost all completely genuine, and there was one other factor that seemed impossible to fake, the restaurants themselves. So I moved on. And then one day, sitting in the shed I lived in, I had a revelation. Within the current climate of misinformation and society's willingness to believe absolute bullshit, maybe a fake restaurant is possible. Maybe it's exactly the kind of place that could be a hit.
Okay.
In that moment, it became my mission, with the help of fake reviews, mystique, and nonsense. I was going to do it, turn my shed into London's top-rated restaurant on TripAdvisor. Well, there's a little picture there of him in his little shed. Literally, that's like a shed that he would pay like £800 a month or something.
It's like a summer house type thing, isn't it?
Imagine that £800 a month. London prices are ridiculous. Let me introduce you to my site, a shed in South London Garden. I've got that fun. Work just gave me it. A little Moby wire that I've never heard of. To get started, I need to get verified. To do that, I needed a phone. One £10 burner later, and the shed at Dulwich officially exists. Now I need to list an address, but doing so makes easy work for any skeptical fact checkers. Plus, I don't technically have a door. Instead, I just list the road and call the shed an appointment only restaurant. Onto my online presence, I bought a domain and built a website. Hotspots are all about quirks, so to cut through the noise, I need a concept silly enough to infuriate your dad. A concept like naming all our dishes after moods.
Jesus.
Now, some soft focus images of those delicious dishes. There's a picture there.
Is that... It looks like it was drawn in pencil crayon. It also looks disgusting.
Yeah. It's not a drawing. It's real. But what he's done is he's got some... do you know those little bleached cake things you put in urinals and that? He's got one of those. He's got some Gillette shaving cream. He's got some honey and some black pepper, and he's just throwing it all onto a dish. Obviously, you can see the Gillette's there, the foam. Yeah. That's obviously the fucking bleach cake thing, and then obviously just swirled honey on it and that. And that's what he did. He did another one now, which there's a picture of it.
That's actual coffee beans on Gillette shaving cream, and I don't know what that big brown slab is.
Yeah. Apparently, all I'm seeing here in this other picture is some Nescafe Azera, the Gillette, and I think it's dried paint. This sponge covered in paint with shaving foam. Anyway, yeah, so he did an egg as well.
Just one egg?
Yeah.
On his foot.
On his foot.
Pardon me.
So yeah, he did all that. And then on the 5th of May 2017, he woke up to an email. Hello, we're excited to tell you that your listener request has been approved and is on the site for everyone to see. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to let the TripAdvisor community know about the shed at Dulwich. Best regards. So then he obviously started out to make it to number 1. To start with, he ranked at 18,149, which is the worst restaurant in London according to TripAdvisor. So he started getting reviews. He needs convincing reviews like this one. If you enjoy Chef's Table, you love it here. My husband and I like to occasionally take a weekend trip to London from our home in Warwickshire. We like to explore the quirky sides of London and where big food is. We stumbled across the shed at Dulwich via TripAdvisor. Apparently, they do not offer online booking, so I went down the traditional route and picked up the phone. Well, it took just over a week of phone calls to get through and finally book a table. Not ideal, but we were still very excited for our upcoming booking. We were not disappointed. The whole experience was fantastic. Our waiter was so attentive. Nothing was too much for him. As the sun was setting, we were offered blankets. We politely declined. One had a stain on it. But a nice touch. Adds to the alfresco feel. The portion sizes weren't huge, but the quality was fantastic. The earthly taste and freshness of the food was something else. The menu changes regularly as most of the food is homegrown. What a delightful idea. We will certainly be back. Which is obviously, I think, one of his friends or something.
Right, I see.
The celebrity endorsement, Sean Williamson, sends me after I meet him in a pub to really explain my concept and ask a photo of him eating fancy food in a fancy place, but instead receive one of him eating a roast dinner with a side of chips. They basically just said, can't believe I'm finally in the best restaurant ever. I'm guessing he used that phrase. So he started climbing the ranks. The first couple of weeks were easy. We cracked the top 10,000 in no time, but I don't expect much in the way of inquiries quite yet. Then one morning, something extraordinary happens. The shed's burner phone goes off. Startled and hungover, I pick up. Hello? Is this the shed? Yes, I sound like a radiator that needs bleeding. I've heard so much about your restaurant. I know it's a long shot as you get booked up so quickly, but I don't suppose you have a table tonight. Panicking, I abruptly responded, sorry, but we're fully booked for the next 6 weeks, and slammed down the phone. I'm stunned. A day later, I feel another vibration. A 70th birthday booking 4 months in advance. 9 people. Some pictures there of him getting texts and stuff like that. So he checks his computer for emails. He has 10 appointment requests waiting. A boyfriend tries to use his girlfriend's job at a children's hospital for leverage. TV executives use their work emails. Seemingly overnight, we're now at 1,456. The shed at Dulwich has suddenly become appealing. I realise what it is. The appointments, lack of address, and general exclusivity of the place is so alluring that people can't see sense. They're looking at photos of the sole of my foot, drooling. Over the coming months, the shed's phone rings incessantly. Things are getting a bit out of control. By the end of August, we're at 156. Little image there of him at Shed at Dulwich on TripAdvisor. And things are starting to get a little out of hand. First, companies start using the estimated location of the shed on Google Maps to get their free samples to me. Then people who want to work at the shed get in touch in significant numbers. Then I get an email from the council, which wants to relocate us to a site in Bromley they're developing. Then an Australian production company gets in touch saying they want to exhibit us across the world in an aircraft company's in-flight videos.
What the fuck?
And then finally, I have a Skype meeting with a results-hungry PR agency that promises to get the shed onto the Mail Online with a Batman-themed launch and a £200 Lizzie Cundy appearance. I don't know who that is. The representative calls me obviously pretty cool, which is nice, but ultimately I decided to handle the promotion myself. Final push. Winter has arrived and we're at number 30. But that position won't budge no matter how many reviews I throw at it. Otherwise, though, things have taken a turn. People approach me on the road to ask if I know how to get to the shed, and the phone rings more than ever before. He's got an email. Good. Hi, I never realised you were on the Freem Road, just 2 blocks from us. Any chance you have room for 2 on 28th of September for my wife's birthday? This will be our first time out alone since having our first child. The tone of the email shifts with people from all over the globe asking to visit. And then one night I get an email from TripAdvisor titled Information Request Fuck, the game is up. I've been rumbled. My fingers tremble as I open it. 89,000 views in search results in the past day. Dozens of customers asking for information. Why? Well, on the 1st of November 2017, 6 months after listing the shed at Dulwich online, it's London's top-rated restaurant. And it doesn't even exist, mate.
That's brilliant.
A restaurant that doesn't exist is currently the highest ranked in one of the world's biggest cities on perhaps the internet's most trusted review site. Anyway, it goes on after this, but essentially, to top it all off, right, he realizes that he needs to actually do a night where people can come and eat food. So what he does is gets his friends around to help him set up a few tables and stuff out in his back garden. And I think he's got a friend who's a chef.
Right.
So he got him to handle the food, but what they did is they went to Iceland, got a bunch of, microwavable lasagnas and served that to people. But what he did to make it look professional, I'll see if there's a photo while I describe it, but it is, he obviously put it in the oven to cook it. When he got it out, he put it on the plate, and then he kind of like scrambled the top bit, the cheese sauce on top.
Yeah.
To make it look like it's freshly made. And then he got some scallions and fucking just threw those on top and gave it to people, and it did look like it was professionally made that day. And that that's him shopping at Iceland.
No way, mate.
Yeah, innit? And what obviously he doesn't sell food; he sells moods, which is great, and a great excuse for why everyone's getting lasagna. And he got a fucking DJ as well, right? There's a DJ to just sit there, and all he did was play sounds of like a restaurant and a cafe. He didn't play music; he just sat there with a fucking mixer doing that. And obviously, because he lives there, when people showed up for the meal, he went out to the front of the road, right? And he put blindfolds on him and took him through the alleyway to his back garden, just so that no one knew where he lived. And it all went into the whole mystique thing. See if we can find a picture of this fucking lasagna. I think apparently he got a guy as well to bring some of his chickens around, and he had a little coop set up. And the idea was that they could choose their own chickens, like fish restaurants, you could choose your own fish.
Yeah.
They're in a picture of the lasagna. But yeah, in order to make sure it wasn't illegal, so I'm pretty sure buying prepackaged food and just warming it up for people and making them pay for it is illegal. He said it was like a press night, so all the food was free. But yeah, that's his story, mate. He made a fake restaurant and got all the way to the #1 on TripAdvisor.
That's so cool. We should definitely do something like that.
Yeah.
Should we just rate ourselves as the best podcast in Bradford?
Everyone's online trying to find our podcast, but no one can find anything.
I'm pretty sure there's not that many podcasts in Bradford, but I do know of one that would be hard to beat.
We'll do it.
So I've got an article which I found.
Go on then.
Have you heard of China's smart city?
I have not.
So it's fucking incredible, and like if it wasn't for the lack of freedom that comes with it,
yeah,
I would definitely want to live there. So it is called Hangzhou, I think.
Yeah.
Over 9 million people live there.
Mm-hmm.
It is like the infrastructure is linked by software. There's an AI that controls everything. They have access to every person's social media and like their cars to see where they're going to and from, and like I think it says something about the structure of the city being able to change to like reduce traffic and stuff like that.
Wow.
Because this AI is constantly making decisions to make people's lives easier, to make their journey shorter.
Jesus
like,
Christ.
They're all linked to this AI by devices and like GPSs and stuff.
Mate, you described an episode of Black Mirror.
It's so cool. Like, it's unreal.
It sounds cool, right? But I mean, did you see the thing recently with Mark Zuckerberg and he's showcasing his little VR thing?
Yeah,
and he's going around the fucking was it Puerto Rico?
Yeah,
and they got hit by
after a hurricane.
Yeah, after a hurricane, and he's
It's
just there
awkwardly
taking
like...
a tour around all the damaged areas, just promoting his VR. That's proper fucking dystopian, mate.
Yeah,
and
it's so weird.
that city you're describing, it sounds amazing, but I can't help but think how bad it could go. Like it could go.
Yeah. So this city is called City Brain Project.
Right.
It's made by two companies, I think, Alibaba and Foxconn, who obviously we've never heard of because we don't live in China.
Yeah.
Every single resident was tracked, their activity on social networks, their purchases, their movements, their commutes. Everything was uploaded to the AI's database, which then made real-time decisions. Over time, it was allowed to develop a neural network across the city. Everything from the water supplies to the sizes of crowds in certain areas was taken into account, and the city brain slowly found its footing. The project has been hailed as a remarkable success. Traffic congestion, road accidents, and crime are all down. It's not just connected to authorities, notifying them when there's an emergency or a crisis that needs handling. It's also wired up to everyone's mobile phones, informing them of upcoming road traffic or adverse weather conditions in real time.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, aside from monitoring things in the here and now, it also used months' worth of data to work out optimal future scenarios for smoother commutes and safer streets. It's apparently doing so well, it's already been considered in other cities around China. It's likely to find popularity on the international market, albeit with variations on the types of data it retrieves.
It sounds amazing. I'd love to have like AI just as a constant companion in your life, so you can. It's easy to just help you out and whatnot. But then also, I really like privacy. If I couldn't be private,
exactly.
like do things in private,
that's the only major downfall to it.
Like if it tracks everything, I bet it's tracking what you're searching online and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
And suggesting things to you.
Yeah, I don't want the AI knowing what I jack off to. But other than that, man, it fucking sounds awesome.
If it was optional, like they said, you can switch the AI on your computer and it'll make your life easier. But if you'd rather have your privacy, then don't use it. But
or
then,
just like a private mode.
Obviously, for the greater good of the city, there's some things that you're gonna have to just be honest about, like letting it track your commutes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, like there should be a incognito mode for when you don't want to be tracked.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously people need must understand that other people have things they want to keep private, and it's just human nature to like not want to disclose everything.
Yeah, can drive you a bit crazy.
If there is an incognito,
feeling like you don't have privacy.
Yeah. Even if it's something that's not worth keeping a secret, you still want to keep it a secret.
Exactly.
And it'd be even more so in that climate. But yeah, if there's an incognito button, then that's amazing. I can't wait for it to reach us.
Yeah.
We'll be like 90.
I feel like it's also a bad thing in that it puts a lot of your reliance on this system. And like after time, you'll get so used to it that if the system ever went down or you moved somewhere else, you'd forget how to function properly.
Yeah, well, that's been shown in movies before, like WALL-E.
Yeah,
where we become so dependent on technology that we have just ended up being fat slobs in chairs, not paying attention to anything, no outside stimulation or anything like that.
Yeah,
it needs to be a healthy balance. As I keep saying, mate, life is all about balances, and you need to be able to figure it out.
Figure it
out. So I asked you about this. I told you about this the other day, but since we're recording now, what do you think about this animated Mario movie?
So I have my reservations because obviously it's being made by Illumination.
Illumination, yeah. Who made Despicable Me, Minions
and shit.
And
so their sense of humor is absolute trash. Like, fuck me.
Yeah, what was one of the latest ones? Secret Life of Pets. Did you watch that?
Yeah,
that was just atrocious. It was a typical person gets lost in big city.
There was nothing original about that film at all. It was just like, let's sell plush teddies and
like I won't say Kevin Hart is my favorite comedian and I'll watch him all the time, but when he's in a movie and that his comedy's not that bad, it adds to it a little bit, and it's not hard to watch.
It's just always about him being short. Like you watch one of his films and you've heard all the jokes.
Exactly, but in that movie, it was unbearable because he voiced the little bunny, didn't he? Or something, the psycho bunny. It was bad. But anyway, you were saying?
The sense of humor is obviously absolute trash. Like if they bring in that sort of sense of humor to a Mario film, it's just going to be awful. But the big man himself from Nintendo is working on it, and I like to think that he'll be strict with the Mario IP.
Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah, Miyamoto himself. And so in that sense, I have a bit of hope because while Illumination makes shit films with horrible sense of humor, their animation and 3D models are incredible, and
Yeah.
seeing Mario in that like high definition style is going to be really cool in itself. But then also, I just don't want them to mess with the IP too much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not as big a Mario fan as I could be. There are definitely bigger Mario fans out there who are probably crying in the pillows knowing Illumination's got their IP. But I want to be able to enjoy this film, and I feel like if it just turns out like if they turn Toad into a minion,
Yeah.
it's gonna be awful.
The way I'm looking at it is, obviously, I didn't have a Nintendo childhood. It was all about PlayStation. So, if when I was a kid and I was playing Crash Bandicoot and a Crash Bandicoot movie came out and it was decent,
Yeah.
it'd just instantly be the center of my universe. And I just think any kid now, because obviously Nintendo, they've always been there. People have always been diehard fans and stuff, but they've like recently like started getting much better for like newcomers and younger audiences.
Yeah.
Because they were, for a long time, they were only concerned about the people who stayed with them, but now they're all like, let's bring in the new people. And so any kid now that likes Mario and plays Nintendo and that, they're gonna fucking love that movie.
Yeah, that's true.
It's gonna make a lot of money, I think. Even if it's a bad movie, a lot of kids will want to go see that.
That's definitely true, unfortunately. But like, there are fans out there who would like it to actually be a good film.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna come out and be like, yo, it's definitely gonna be bad. I'm gonna give it a chance. But it's been my experience that movies based off of games have never been good.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been one.
I can't think of one.
They made the Angry Birds movie, didn't they?
Something I remember wanting to watch that for some ridiculous
Illumination,
reason, but I hadn't seen it. No, they didn't make it.
They didn't make it. It was Sony's animated studios that made it. Made it sound like I was saying that Illumination made it, but obviously it wasn't. Warcraft was an okay movie for
I haven't watched it.
based off a game. I think the only thing is, if you were super into the lore of Warcraft, you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't massively into the lore. I played World of Warcraft and that a lot when I was a kid, and watching the movie, I was like, yeah, I know that guy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I remember that. I read that in a little textbook, fucking once when I was figuring out the game. Because they had books in the game, and then you could read it and that.
Yeah. Bit like Oblivion.
Yeah.
I remember that having like loads of books with loads of different stories. There was that one that like smut.
Lusty Argonian made.
Yeah, that.
Have you heard about YouTube? They're
No, what's that?
they're trying to crack down. No, obviously you've heard about YouTube. They're trying to crack down on people like Logan Paul who abuse the platform and do outrageous shit.
Mm-hmm.
They've not said how, but they are acknowledging that it is a problem and that it's a problem for other creators as well. Apparently, a woman called Susan Wojcicki. I don't know how to pronounce that fucking name.
Fair.
Said that they're trying to develop policies that will lead to consequences if a creator does something egregious that causes significant harm to our community as a whole. Because obviously when Mr. Paul, that's too much respect for that douche. When arsehole Paul uploaded his video recording the suicide forest, YouTube removed him immediately from the Google Preferred program.
Yeah, rightly so.
Which sells premium advertising for the top 5% of video makers.
Oh, really?
Really? Well, like,
Sneaky.
as many people have pointed out, it didn't really harm him because the video had like fucking 500,000 likes before it got taken down or something, and like his core audience just don't give a shit. So I think what they're trying to do is make something a bit more appropriate to punish people like that. Because it was ridiculous what he did. It does need punishing. And
Especially
Mr.
for the sake of other creatives.
Hank Green, I don't know who Hank Green is. He apparently said that he's often critical of YouTube, but also has a lot of sympathy for the tight ropes they must walk. And he thinks that they're giving to advertisers too much. But that this statement shows a very good and deep understanding of the issues of the platform and the creators face. But a lot of people are just basically saying they want YouTube to do what they're promising faster than they are, which I agree, because a lot of people are just so that people stop complaining about the Adpocalypse. I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah, like every video you watch on YouTube has some, mention of the Adpocalypse.
Yeah.
But I really think it just sucks because there's so many great YouTubers out there
Yeah,
who suffer at the hands of other YouTubers who have a lot less sense and a lot less respect for the position that they're in.
Yeah,
like
but
how lucky
obviously-
they are and
yeah.
how careful they actually do have to be. Like they're not invincible. Nobody's
Yeah.
invincible.
But even people who have been on the platform for a long time and are more aware of that still obviously make mistakes. Like when PewDiePie dropped the N-bomb and that. Like that had a big backlash for a lot of other people. And I don't know. I think the advertisers need to be aware and just reminded all the time that these people aren't professionals. They're doing this at the home. It's their hobby and they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So when someone slips up, not to fucking act like, I don't know, like fucking, like imagine if Donald Trump went on stage to do an official speech and he dropped his pants and just started masturbating on people. Like that's unprofessional as fuck,
Yeah.
and you should be able to, punish him for it. But if someone who isn't professional fucks up that way, then you should slap him on the wrist or something like that. Don't go 100% immediately. And I think that's what they need to be reminded of, because when he dropped that N-bomb, he got dropped by everyone. He got dropped by fucking Disney when he made those. Was it Fiverr, that service where you could pay people a Fiverr and they'll do what they want?
So that whole thing is what started it off.
Yeah.
Like he kept making Nazi jokes and he did the thing with Fiverr. Which, fair enough, you can't expect what happened. I guess you kind of can, but you can't expect it to actually be taken seriously. Like you can expect the outrage, but in the current outrage culture that we live in, you can't expect it to be taken that seriously. But then it was, and a lot of bad things happened across all of YouTube. Everybody suffered at the hands of a mistake that PewDiePie made. But you can have sympathy for him. He didn't see it coming. He didn't know how bad it would be. So fair enough. It's more the media's fault and whatever that fucking newspaper's called that started it all off.
I don't know which one it was. Was it Gawker or
no?
Because Gawker did a bunch of shit, didn't they?
What are they called? Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
They were just ridiculous about
Forbes as well. I hate Forbes.
But then for him to make his second mistake of live streaming him saying the N-bomb, very derogatively towards somebody.
I don't know. Was he even live streaming on YouTube or was it Twitch?
I think it was YouTube. I think he uses YouTube gaming. I don't know. But
if he did it on Twitch, he would have got away with it.
Yeah. But still, like, just even if he said that on Twitch, obviously advertisers are going to be like, okay, I don't want to show on this guy's videos. I don't want to risk it. I'm going to pull out. And then all of YouTube suffered again because of a mistake that he made. And I feel like you can't be as forgiving towards him for this one because he knows the effect that his past mistakes have had on all of YouTube, and he knows how much power he's got to fuck with everybody's jobs. And he still made that mistake.
I feel like we can be a bit forgiving. Like it was a mistake.
It's definitely a mistake. I'm still referring to it as a mistake, but
it's not like he did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, it definitely didn't do it on purpose.
And even though it was a mistake, it was a really bad mistake to make. He should have known a bit more, like been a more, I don't know, engage his brain. But it was just like a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And I don't think he meant it as like a racist slur. It was just like, you can take any word and call someone that word just
yeah. We've said this 1,000 times.
Like,
any word can be given power.
Exactly. But it was a very bad mistake to make. And he did obviously do a lot of shit. But I feel like it's not entirely his fault. Like YouTube aren't doing very well with opening a dialogue with creators.
Yeah.
So the creators are like trying to push the boundaries, see what they can get away with and stuff like that. And obviously when it works for him, like obviously PewDiePie started getting a shit ton of fucking subscribers, and pretty quickly ended up being the most subscribed person on YouTube. And I bet in his brain he was like proper loving it. He was young, he's rich, he could do what he wanted. I bet he felt powerful. And I think if YouTube were just there, just to give him guidelines every now and then, and just not so much as just like teach him and coach him, but at least just say like, yo, this is what we expect of you and whatnot. I think most of this could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what changes they made, what they're making. See how
It won't affect us though, as we don't monetize our content.
We're not trying to be YouTubers, I don't think.
No.
It's just a place to upload.
Yeah, I just want us to be a bit more accessible for people.
Yeah.
And YouTube is probably the most accessible source for a podcast. You don't need an account or anything. Our website's pretty good though. ut2cast.podbean.com.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll get rid of the .podbean.
I want to self-host, but obviously we're not making any money from this, so already paying what I pay for Podbean is...
Yeah. Plus, if we self-host, the domain name would have to pay for.
Yeah.
Which I think most people can do.
The storage would be the most expensive thing, because our podcast files are huge. It's just that I'm getting quite good at web design, and the options on Podbean are horrific.
Right.
If anybody who's been frequently visiting our website, you'll probably notice it changes at least once every 2 weeks as I try and make one of their templates work and fuck with the CSS a bit. We're now back at the template we started on,
right.
which I stopped using because it stretched the album art out for the podcast, which I found ridiculous because they ask you to upload it as a square file, I'm pretty sure. So that it can be compatible with iTunes and stuff. But then they stretch it out and make it taller. But I finally figured out how to get rid of whatever was doing that in the CSS and get it to display as a square without stretching it. So now we're back to that because it's probably the best one they've got.
Yeah.
The other thing is it doesn't show the artwork for your latest podcast, which I find ludicrous.
That's weird.
Like even when you open it to play the podcast, the artwork's not there.
Right.
I'm just having so many problems just trying to make our website look good. But
yeah, I'd love to self-host. Maybe one day, if we make some decent money and whatnot, we might be able to do it.
We'll see.
Might have to get behind donations or something stupid. I don't know.
Could Patreon, I suppose.
Yeah. Apparently, YouTube aren't popular with Patreon as well. They don't like people uploading their platform but earning money, using a third party. Which I think is pretty fucking awful of them, but they're making some right fucking dough off YouTube. They can afford to lose a few people.
A lot of podcasts get sponsors, but I don't think ours is specific enough to get a sponsor for any reason.
I don't know.
Pardon me.
It's not like if a company out there like wants someone to to plug the shit, I don't think they really care what the content's about as long as it's getting numbers and it's not massively offensive and stuff like that.
Yeah, we might have to start getting numbers first though.
Yeah. So apparently the Sony chief executive Kazuyo Hirai is to step down.
Why?
I don't know. He's stepping down. He's handing the reins over to finance chief Kenichiro Yoshida, which is apparently to take over control from the 1st of April this year. He'll remain as a chairman, but Mr. Yoshida will be like...
Why would you do that? Is he just tired of working?
Maybe.
Maybe he's just got enough money.
Yeah.
From upping the price of PSN.
A lot of people do that when they're CEOs for a long time, and that I think maybe the stress gets to them and they step down, but they're still chairmen, so they're still making money off it and whatnot. And they do have a say in what's going on, but they just want a more relaxed role.
Who did you say it was?
Kazuyo Hirai is the CEO.
Didn't he just become CEO recently when Shuhei Yoshida stepped
Maybe.
down? Or was he only CEO of PlayStation? Well, not
Sony.
CEO, but like head of PlayStation portion of Sony.
Apparently, Mr. Yoshida and Mr. Hirai have been instrumental in turning Sony around to focus on smartphone image sensors. Under their efforts, the Japanese electronic giant sold off its struggling PC business, sold off its television business, and launched a successful PlayStation 4 video game console. Which has sold more than 60 million units to date.
Wow.
Sony said its profits quadrupled in the 3 months to December last year. The Japanese electronics giant reported a profit of 351 billion yen, which is $3.2 billion or $2.5 billion for the quarter, compared with 92.4 billion yen in the same period of the year before.
Wow.
Yeah. As the company approaches on a crucial juncture when we will embark on a new mid-range plan, I consider this to be the ideal time to pass the baton of leadership to the new management for the future of Sony, and also for myself to embark on a new chapter in my life," said Mr. Hirai in a statement. Apparently, Mr. Yoshida said he wanted to build on the management foundation created under Mr. Hirai's leadership to improve Sony's competitiveness as a global company. Wonder what that's going to do for the PlayStation.
Speaking of PlayStation, I've got a couple of games I'd like to talk about if you have a moment.
Yeah.
So, a couple of podcasts ago, I mentioned that I'd played Gravity Rush 2 again and finally got to the end.
Yeah.
And seen the final boss and everything. And then I also added... The fuck happened to me then? I also added that there was some extra stuff after that boss which I hadn't got around to doing.
Right.
I've now done that.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be like a few side quests or at most one chapter. It was so much more. Like you find out about where Cat and Raven come from finally, like because all you know is that Cat fell out of the sky.
Right. You gonna spoil that? Or?
No.
Okay.
But there's this huge backstory. It lasts 6 chapters, and there's boss fight after boss fight in it. It's ridiculous. The final boss fight is really fucking epic, like really dramatic, and it's touching as well. Like it plays on a lot of elements that have come through in the series.
Right.
And I just find it incredible how the game went from this like sweet and cutesy adventure, like doing little chores for people, and then it becomes this like epic battle with demons and shit. It's unreal. It's so cool.
I feel like that's just a typical Japanese trope.
Yeah,
like setting up the theme and the mood for like the first half of a series or movie, and then just switching it up to be super dark and depressing at the end, like Devilman Crybaby. At the beginning, it was really happy and cute and all that.
Yeah,
and then it just got so dark afterwards.
Yeah, but that just kept continually getting darker and darker.
Yeah.
One thing I found really cool was the credits. While there was an actual scrolling credit screen, what you got to play as Raven,
right,
for the credits, and you basically were doing a patrol around the city where you live, and just going to see all the people you've met on the journey, and as you travel in between conversations with people, credits appear on the screen, so you're like sort of playing through the credits. All right. I thought that was really cool.
I really liked it.
Although I just wanted to kind of stop playing it. Yeah. So I didn't really care about all these people that I'd met. Half of them I'd forgot about anyway.
Right.
But I still thought it was a cool way to do it.
I really liked the credits for Splatoon 2. I thought that was fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could shoot them and stuff.
Yeah, shoot them to give them colour and whatnot.
Yeah, it was
just
really
throw water balloons at them or something. That was cool.
That was very cool. So the other game we'll talk about is something we've talked about a few times on this podcast.
Yeah.
I finally managed to get some time in playing on Nier Automata.
Right.
Which I only played twice, and then Monster Hunter World came out.
Yeah.
And I haven't touched it since then. I think it's really cool. Like, it's not what I expected at all. Even after hearing you talk about it for like half a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected at all. Like, it's got this really weird tone. Like, you mentioned that a lot of the time the robots, the enemies, don't attack you. They're not enemies, but you can choose to attack them, and then they'll attack you. And that often you'll find depressed robots. But I didn't realize that would be the majority of enemies in the game. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many robots you just don't have to fight at all. But if you want XP or whatever, you start a fight with them. But yeah, I finally got to that theme park you mentioned.
Yep.
Which was really cool. Like, I didn't expect to reach it so soon, actually, because you made it sound like it was like the penultimate part of the game. But
well, the game is massive, so you know.
But yeah, that was really cool how these robots were just like depressedly dancing around, throwing confetti in the air, and
yeah, it is really strange because it sets up like a feeling of the robots are the enemy, but it didn't do a good job of it, and I think they did it on purpose because it does make you think like, what if there's more to these robots? Yeah. And I think they did that, on purpose.
Well, it's definitely a weird feel to it.
Yeah. And then obviously, you didn't get to your second playthrough, did you? But you start learning more then about what the robots are doing, and it's just, I found it amazing that the enemies of the game, but they did so well of making them more than just cannon fodder. And
well, one of the first things that happens in the game is you stumble across a group of very depressed robots who want to be more human.
yeah,
So in order to do that, they're doing something which they think is very human, which is bumping cylinders together.
yeah.
They're all paired off in groups of 2 in this massive like pit. One will be on the floor and the other one will just be smashing its cylinder into the bottom of the robot. And they were just repeating love, love, love. It was ridiculous.
There was one that was rocking a crib that had nothing in it.
Yeah.
That it gets more depressing than that, I swear down.
Well, it was really...
you did the boss battle in the amusement park, didn't you?
Yeah, I want to say the music is really awesome, especially in boss fights. And I think it's really cool how they're... like, when the boss attacks, it affects the music. Yeah. And I think that's really, really cool, like, how the music is timed up to the attacks. But I feel like that is possibly something that comes from Bulletstorm games. And the fact that they've put annoying Bulletstorm elements into the game.
I don't mind the Bulletstorm elements. They're not challenging. Very like as challenging as bullet fucking hell games can be. It's not that hard.
I think the thing that really is most challenging about the game, and the reason that I died like 3 times fighting that one boss, is the camera shifting. In the middle of a fight, while you're trying to attack things and dodge bullets and stuff, the camera will just shift from you having control over it to you having no control, and it's just sat on top of you, like top down. That happened a few times in that boss fight. And then I'm trying to dodge things and I can't see where they're coming from. I'm trying to attack things that I can't see. I've got to try and shoot them. So I figured out the best way to do it is to just stand in the middle and just like do your best to shoot the enemies and the bullets without even being able to see where they are. And it was so annoying not having control over the camera and just having that randomly taken away from you in the most like intrusive way. I just found it so frustrating, and it kept interfering with my ability to play the game effectively.
Right. I didn't really have any trouble with that boss fight or the camera at all. Were you using the lock-on camera?
Yeah.
Right. Because could you look around when you're not locking on?
What do you mean? When it's top down, you can't move the camera.
Oh, top down.
Yeah. It's really annoying.
Nah, I didn't really.
The control scheme is really awkward as well. Like, I cannot get used to having to have both fingers on the shoulders and triggers.
Yeah.
Because you need the left trigger to lock on, the right trigger to fire. R1 does some shit, I can't remember.
R1 fire, or is it L1? L1's fire. Is it?
Oh, L1's your special.
Yeah, L1's special, R1's fire, and then R2's to dodge.
Yeah.
So you have to have.
So you have to have them all.
Yeah.
Basically.
No, I couldn't really get used to it. I don't know how I got around it.
While trying to move around and use the face buttons and everything, and then if you need to heal, you've got to use the D-pad. But if you've got to use the D-pad, you can't use the thumbstick to move.
Yeah.
Which got me a lot of times, because I'd be like trying to get to the item I want to use and then press circle, which I kept thinking I should press X because that makes sense. Yeah. But no, you press circle on it and then it uses the item. And like I wouldn't be able to move while I'm doing that, so I'd be like hurriedly trying to do that while I've got no health and like 3 different robots are coming at me. I just feel like it could have been put together better.
Well, you can just pause the game and use your health items that way, but it interrupts the flow of the game.
It takes a lot more time, and also when you unpause the game, you got to be ready for whatever's already coming at you.
It is a Platinum Games game, so it is supposed to be quite hard, but I felt like it was the most accessible Platinum Games game that they've made.
Yeah, I still think it's really cool. The controls, the problems I have with the controls are nothing compared to how much I love the theme of the game and like the feel of it.
Plus 2B's bum, right?
I haven't actually seen as much of it as you said I would.
I saw loads of it, mate.
You must double jump a lot.
Yeah. Double jump, also like when you double jump and hold X and you grab onto your pod, like skirt flows up a bit, and sometimes I see a cheek or two. Yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes you just see it a lot.
Yeah. I feel like quite often when you're moving around enough to see your ass, there's a lot more you should be paying attention to in the game.
Yeah.
So
Plus, when you're sprinting uphill, the camera just naturally likes to lower down.
Just droops
And
underneath.
so you just see your bum cheeks furiously going.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking of Japanese things,
Yep.
been watching Death Note again.
Right.
Which isn't really what I want to talk about, but there's something that branches off of that. So I've been watching Death Note because I've been trying to convince my girlfriend to watch it ever since she got me to watch One Piece.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't believe that she was into anime and had never seen Death Note. Like, Death Note is like classic. You've got to have seen Death Note if you're into anime.
Yeah.
But all it was reminding me of is a friend that I had who we've mentioned before and who we said we'd never mention again, but I feel like this story just needs telling.
Okay.
So this is about my old friend Ben.
Ben.
So I met Ben in primary school. He was the first kid that actually spoke to me. And that was my first mistake talking back because
Yeah.
I grew up with this kid who had a very overactive imagination, and I'd spend every like lunchtime pretending I was in Lord of the Rings or pretending I was in Star Wars or Spider-Man and running around the playground with imaginary swords while other kids are like playing football and being normal. So we were just spending every day being as autistic as humanly possible.
Without actually being autistic.
Yeah, and getting the living shit bullied out of us. But I didn't realise. I was just a kid. So I didn't realise I'm getting bullied because I'm...
an idiot.
Yeah. And then I went to secondary school and tried to stay friends with him, but like we were getting into our emo phases and he just started to take everything that little bit further, like painting his fingernails and putting on makeup. And so he introduced me to Death Note. He was like, "Oh, I've watched like 2 episodes of this thing and you need to start watching it." I was like, "Okay, I'll watch it." It was the first anime I watched and was definitely what got me into anime. And it's a very quick anime to watch as well. Like, if you wanted to watch through Bleach or One Piece, you've got like nearly 800 episodes to go through.
Yeah. How many episodes of Death Note was there?
There's 37.
Wow.
Which in comparison, like 37 20-minute episodes, you can do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I finished it in a few days, like 3 days.
Yeah.
So I come back into school having watched that, and he is the world's biggest fan of L.
Right.
L is really cool. Like, watching it now as an adult without, just being cringy as fuck.
Right.
Like, there's a lot to Ryuzaki's character, L.
Yeah.
There's a lot to L that I never realized before. Like, there's a lot of emotion there, and there is a really weird scene, like, where he decides to massage Light's feet, and there's like this really gay fan servicey scene between them both, and that was like I cannot get my head around why that even happened. Like, I get like it was building emotion between them and trying to show them that they're best friends, but it just didn't show that at all.
I don't know. They might have done it for the
fan
fans.
service. But yeah, Ben was really into L, and he started buying like white long sleeve t-shirts and wearing them around, and he grew his hair out, dyed it black, and then started spiking it out. Like, he must have spent an hour a day just getting his hair to shape exactly like L's in the anime. And as anyone who was previously a teenager into anime knows, anime hair is impossible in real life because that's not how hair works. But let me tell you, he figured it out. His hair was exactly like L's, and he'd come to school like that, and he'd sit next to me like that. And L has some different quirks within the series.
Right.
He doesn't sit on chairs properly. He puts his feet on the chair and then crouches.
Perches.
Yeah, and puts his hands on his knees, and he sits there and plays with his lip with his thumb. He also takes his shoes and socks off and just twiddles his toes on the chair. Ben did all of that shit in science. In middle of science class, he'd be sat next to me with his feet on the chair, no shoes, no socks, twiddling his toes together, with his hands on his knees, crouched down, playing with his lip with his thumb, and he'd just be in that character all day. And he'd just do that all day.
Wow.
And I don't understand how he, like, actually, in hindsight, like, credit to him, mate. That's some incredible dedication to being a fan of something.
I suppose.
But the amount of bullying that we got, like, it was just turned up to, like, 5,000%.
You got bullied by proxy, like, just because you knew him?
Yeah, exactly. Just because I was sat next to him in science, like, it wasn't by choice. Like, obviously, back then, we saw it as luck that we were put together.
Yeah. I wasn't really friends with him like you were. I talked to him. I went to his house once, and
he was the worst person for like going to the house because he'd just make you sit and watch him play video games.
Yeah, he was,
and he'd never let you have a go.
What was fucking hilarious is all like, "Oh, shall we play Fallout 3?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." He said, let's do it, right? So he loads it up. He's playing on his PlayStation. 20 minutes goes by. I've still not had a go. An hour goes by. I'm looking at my watch like I should probably fucking go home, and I'm not having a go. I decided to stick it out for like maybe another half hour, and I was like, "Oh mate, give me control. I want to show you something." And he's all like, "No, it's alright. I probably already know it." And I was like, "All right, I'm going home. See ya." So I was fucked off. I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. And I just didn't really talk to him after that. I'm just not into people that aren't. You invite someone around your house, right? You have a responsibility to entertain them, to talk to them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he didn't do any of that. And obviously, I tried. He had a laptop that it was his laptop. His parents bought it for him, but he wasn't allowed on it.
Oh yeah, his dad had the password to it.
Dad had the password, so he had to take it to his dad.
Parents were so fucking weird, mate. Like, that happened a lot. Like, he wasn't allowed on his laptop without his dad giving him the password. There was a computer, but he wasn't allowed on that without the password. His dad installed a handprint scanner on his bedroom door for some reason, which I always thought was cool at the time, but then I realised it didn't actually work. Like, he'd managed to fool Ben into thinking it actually worked, but all it was like a pressure pad, so anybody could put their hand on there and it would open it. Whenever his grades weren't good enough, they took his consoles away from him, told him they weren't allowed to play on them, which is ridiculous. Like, obviously it didn't work because his grades at the end of the school year were absolute shit. Because he spent too much time role-playing L all day. I once was over there, and they wouldn't let me stay in the house when they were eating. They used to make me get out.
Yeah.
So I was there, like, watching him play video games, and they were like, "Okay, we're having tea, Connor. You're gonna have to go wait outside." And it was absolutely pissing, like sheets of rain coming down. So I found the nearest tree and just stood there for like 40 minutes. And then I went back, absolutely drenched, like no kid should ever be that drenched with rainwater. And I knocked on the door and I was like, "Hey, have you finished with tea?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, we finished like 20 minutes ago." I was like, "Oh, can I come back in?" She's like, "You aren't coming in this house like that." I'm like this because you won't let me stay in your house. It's like, if she'd have said, "Just go home, we're not going to let you back in," I would have gone home. But the fact that I was waiting to come back and I stayed in the rain, it was ridiculous.
Okay, now he's I was going to say, by the way, you were so wet. The only thing that was dry about you was your humour. Yeah, he told me that his dad's got this guitar that cost a lot of money, and it's like his baby, and he fucking loves it more than anyone else. And so I talked him into getting it because I went to play it. I was like, "This guitar sounds amazing. I want to fucking shred on it." So he goes and gets it, and it was this fucking absolutely awful guitar. If someone gave it to me, I'd be like, "No, you get rid of your own shit. I'm not throwing your rubbish in the bin." It was so bad. I swear down, if he spent any more than 50 quid on that guitar, he's a fool. It had no name on the headstock, right? So I didn't even know what fucking model it was, who made it. It could have been it could have been an Ibanez. It could have been nothing, right? It was just shit. All it was yellow with like race stripe going down.
I remember that.
And that was
that guitar.
They had the neck was awful. It was like a fat C. It wasn't really a flat or anything like that. So you had to have like fucking big hands to get around and stuff. The neck wasn't cut properly. It was really awful to play, mate. They were buzzing all over it, and I was like, "I don't think your dad knows how to play guitar, man." And he's like, "No, he's well sick at guitar." I'm like, "I don't think so."
Well, I remember once he wanted to start a band, and I was sort of learning drums. So we were playing drums in the garage, and his dad came and he was like, "Oh yeah, let's all play instruments together and stuff." So we were just like playing around. I had drums, Ben had a bass guitar, and his dad had a electric guitar. Fucking 5 minutes in, his mum waddled into the garage, slammed the door open, and was like, "Can you little shits just shut the fuck up for 5 minutes?" And I was like, "I'm gonna go home, I think."
When that time went to his house, I asked him for some reason his laptop came up right, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just use your laptop." He's like, "No, I can't. It's password protected." And I was like, "Give it here, mate." So I pulled out a USB in my pocket, just plug it in the side, because I had a bootable OS on it, and I just fucking technically side loaded the US onto it and fucking put a second account on his computer that was an administrator through command prompt or something. Yeah, and I ended up just going on it, and I was like, "Listen, mate, your dad's an asshole. You need to find out your own way to get on your laptop."
Yeah, you always had useful USBs.
Yeah.
Do you remember the reason why you were banned from IT class?
Yeah, it was stupid. So it wasn't just the IT class, right? I wasn't allowed
computers in general.
I wasn't allowed near any device that could be connected to the internet. So our school had a fucking email system for everyone. Teachers had them, and students had them. They had their own little emails, and it was like an intranet. And what I did was I made a simple fork bomb, I think it's called, something like that, which is just you can use command prompt, right, and you get it to open up a program like a million times in 1 second, and it bombs the computer, it slows it down, the CPU's fucked, and it shuts it off.
Yeah.
And I attached it to an email, and I sent it out to every recipient in the school, every computer got, every student even, and every teacher got one. And it slowed the system down. I think they had to reboot a bunch of computers and whatever else. And I got massively in trouble for it. I think I was excluded for a week or something, and I wasn't allowed near any computer again for the rest of my student life. But I'd pull out my phone, and all the teachers just instantly whip their heads towards me and look what I was doing. And just start shitting themselves, sweat rolling down. I'm like, I'm not a hacker. I just knew one cool little trick. Yeah. Obviously, I think that was just before my GCSEs. I had to do that study for my GCSEs, so they eventually let me on, but I was supervised.
Yeah.
They were all scared of me.
Found that so silly.
Yeah.
So, going back to Ben pretending to be L,
right?
Other than sitting weird on his seat in science class, because I suppose that's not the worst thing. Another thing that L does in the show is he only picks things up with his thumb and forefinger, and he'll dangle it in front of his head. So if he's reading something, he'll grab the two top corners with his thumb and index finger and just hold it in front of his face. He did that. He tried to write by holding his pen by the tip like that and just swinging his wrist around. So yeah, he'd read books, dangle it in front of his face. He'd use phones, dangling it by his ear and stuff. It was so ridiculous. He'd use a spoon, to eat a yogurt like that. He'd be doing that, and
I just can't. I could never be that sort of person.
No, it's just
I'm massively invested in being an individual, and I just wouldn't be able to willingly give myself up, my own identity up, to assume a fictional fucking identity. That's even worse.
Yeah,
I just couldn't do it. He must be on the spectrum a little bit to do that.
I don't know. I saw him recently, and it doesn't look like he's doing too well, to be honest. It's a bit of a sad sight, to be fair. But
yeah, he went through so many phases when I knew him as well. Do you remember that time he wanted to be a YouTuber, and he made a fake name, James Reen?
Oh my god, yeah, and he spoke in an American accent, right?
Yeah.
But he got one of his friends, Mark. He got one of his friends on a YouTube video with him. And in the background, you could hear Mark going, "Why are you talking with an American accent? What are you doing that for?" And he didn't even cut it out.
Yeah.
It was so silly. Do you remember when he had a band as well, and he sang that song about Batman?
Yeah.
Which was really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad.
No, I remember that.
Although, credit to him, for getting on getting gigs and getting on stage and stuff. Like his band wasn't that bad. Like Mark and Craig were actually, they knew their instruments. But all Ben did was play bass guitar, and he started trying to sing and stuff as well. But he just
Well, it was like a punk band, wasn't it?
yeah,
The sound and all that. So he didn't have to sing. He just has to shout in the mic.
yeah.
Anyone can do that. But yeah, no, they were very. I didn't like that band at all. Obviously, they were all out of time, and none of them could fucking write a song to save their life.
Yeah.
And obviously they did a song about Batman because fucking
Dark Knight. He was massively into Dark Knight.
Dark Knight came out, and they made their own T-shirts. And I don't think they were getting proper gigs. Like they weren't going to pubs and shit like that. I think they were getting like doing live performances at family events and stuff. Because I remember seeing his dad in the background, like they're having a family barbecue.
No, they definitely did that as well. But I'm pretty sure they got some like tents at like fields and shit.
Right.
Like festivals, like they'd get the shit tent at the back.
He just went through all the phases, didn't he? Emo,
Yeah.
scene kid. He's a hipster now, isn't he?
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah. Fucking enough about James Reen. Apparently, someone's discovered a sprawling Mayan network in the Guatemala jungle.
Right?
With lasers, apparently. Researchers have found more than 60,000 hidden Mayan ruins in Guatemala in a major archaeological breakthrough.
Wow.
Breakthrough. Lean away from the map to burp. They used a laser technology to do it, which was used to survey digitally beneath the forest canopy, revealing houses, palaces, elevated highways, and defensive fortifications. The landscape near already known Mayan cities is thought to have been home to millions more Mayans than other researchers had previously suggested. Apparently, the map is over 810 square miles.
Jesus.
Yeah. There's a little image there of it.
Oh, wow.
I just thought I'd bring it up because I'm fascinated by civilizations that came before us and set the world up for us.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love it when people, obviously I've got just a naturally adventurous, side to me. Like I'd love to be able to just trek around jungles finding lost civilizations and shit.
You're in a Nathan Drake.
Yeah. I wouldn't dress like him. I wouldn't walk or talk like him. I'm no James Reen. But yeah, I'd love to be like a fucking explorer and that. But obviously, most places have already been found and there's nothing left on Earth for humans to discover apart from the ocean. But fuck that. We all know how I stand on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just saw it and I was like, fucking hell, mate. I can't wait to talk to Connor about this. Apparently, they used revolutionary LiDAR technology, which is obviously light radar.
Yeah.
Which is sort of short for light detection and ranging. Yeah. Apparently, it supported an advanced civilization more akin to sophisticated cultures like ancient Greece or China. The find. And then there's more pictures, I think. I'm sure I saw more pictures.
Little black squares that aren't loading there.
Yeah. But yeah, it just fucking just blew my mind, mate. How there's things that would still find it, and it's fucking huge. I don't know how they didn't find it.
Yeah.
It must have. I bet the reason why they didn't find it was obviously it'd been destroyed, and the only reason they found it now is because of the new technology. It can detect where things had previously been built into and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's because there's already stuff there, and they were like, "Well, this is it."
Maybe.
Like, there's no need to look for more. We found it.
But it's like, didn't they recently? Well, I say recently. It could have been a few years ago. They used some sort of technology to scan the Stonehenge, and like they found out that it was previously part of a much bigger structure.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And there was like people were living next to it and in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm just fascinated by the old world.
So I can't remember what civilization it was or what part of the world it's in, but you know those huge like illustrations that you can see from satellite, basically.
Yeah.
They're like in fields and
Yeah.
they're drawn out. You know exactly what I mean, right? Apparently, a truck driver took a shortcut straight through one of them.
The Nazca line things.
I think so. Not NASCAR.
Is it in Peru?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're called Nazca.
I'll just give it a quick Google.
I think your internet went down.
Oh, great. Oh, sorry, I've got...
4G.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No.
Yeah, and then
A truck has damaged several 2,000-year-old Nazca lines by driving straight through them.
Fuck me.
It's unreal, mate.
Jesus.
Yeah, you can see it there on this image. See there where his tyres went through.
Oh, wow.
Wow, what a twat, eh?
The thing is, like,
there's multiple signs there as well that says don't drive through it, but his excuse was, oh, I didn't know the area. Let's try to get to work quicker or whatever.
oh, man. It's so heartbreaking when that happens. Someone's lasted for thousands of years just for some oblivious arsehole to drive over.
Yeah, I know, it's
Jesus
unreal.
Christ. Yeah, I love shit like that. There's I forgot whereabouts it is, but it was featured on that fucking TV show that I told you about, the Ancient Aliens. Which I think we should do an entire podcast on that. Me and you should binge a few episodes of it and just smash the fuck out of it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But there was this place where it was just completely like a big chunk of land that was all flat, and all around it was perfectly straight, like stones that had been placed there.
Yeah.
And,
a farm.
Not a farm. On a wall. It was in a desert or something like that. But it was stretched for miles as well. People have obviously just for miles made a line out of stone. I think it's like to this elevated platform, which is also quite flat and straight.
Yeah.
And obviously they were saying like it must have been an alien airport. They must have been flying down and landing there, and I was like, yeah. Oh, it was a ritualistic site, and people walked there every day to this altar. You know,
yeah.
That's probably the more logical thing. And yeah, I just love shit like that, and that's what the Nazca lines reminded me of. Yeah. I think people can go to that site, and the Nazca, I think they used to be able to go there, and they'd try and take a stone as a souvenir, and it ended up fucking the lines up and stuff like that.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I love ancient shit, mate.
Man, people can be really inconsiderate.
Yeah, people are just oblivious. Like, obviously, you can't know everything. I'm pretty sure if he knew that they were there, he never would have driven over them.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm sure if he knew what the consequences would be, he wouldn't have done it.
Probably. I like to think that if everyone knew that they were there and that they were made thousands of years ago, they'd be like, yeah, well, I'm not going to ruin that, you know? Let's see how long it can last and stuff. But there's always going to be that one person who's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I reckon he definitely didn't give a shit. I've just got one more like short story before we end the podcast.
Go on then.
So I went to a bar the other day which had this really, really cool gimmick, right?
Where they're selling moods and not food.
Every time you buy a drink, which, to be fair, the drinks were really expensive. But every time you buy a drink, between 5 and 9, I think, you get a free pizza.
Wow.
It's only small. It's about, microwave pizza size.
All right.
But, like, you go and buy another drink, you got another pizza. Buy another drink, you got another pizza. And every time you buy a drink, you get to roll a dice as well. If you roll a 1, 3, or 5, odd number, basically, dug out, pay full price, get your pizza, whatever you want. Get a 2, you get 25% off.
Wow.
Get a 4, you get 50% off. Get a 6, it's absolutely free.
Wow.
Yep. And one of the girls that were there with me, she bought a bottle of Prosecco and rolled a 6.
Wow.
Got it all free. And it must have been like 13 quid as well.
That's pretty cool. If you're
it's
very
such
good
a cool gimmick, like to get people there. The only thing that sucked was the atmosphere in the bar was absolutely shit. Like, I wasn't enjoying myself at all. Turn the music up so loud, like, which is a general thing in all bars. Like, you can't talk to each other. Like, it's too loud, you can't talk to each other. But they turned it up so loud and boosted the bass so much that all you could hear was rumbling. You couldn't hear what the song was. You could just hear... That was it.
You were in a club or like a pub?
It was more of a pub. It had very, like, indie feel.
Right. Weird. I hate when they do that. When you've got to proper lean on someone and put your lips right on their ear just to talk.
We went as a huge group because like 3 people have left the company I work at. And it was like a leaving do for them. So I went there to see them for what is potentially the last time. And like,
was this in Leeds? It sounds like a very Leeds thing to do.
Yeah. So we went there to say goodbye to them, you know, have the last conversations we might ever have with them and stuff. And you couldn't talk to anyone. Like, you had to pair up with somebody you wanted to talk to and then just rest your chin on their shoulder while you just scream in each other's ears. That was it. So I bought 2 pints. I was like, the gimmick's cool, but I'm not wasting any more money. I'm not enjoying myself.
Did you get discounts when you rolled the dice?
I rolled a 1,
Wow.
which is nothing, and a 2, which is only 25% off. And the 1 pint that I've paid full price for was like nearly a £5. So yeah.
Oh wow.
I feel like they have to do that though if they're gonna have this gimmick, like to make a profit. But like, how do they make money when that event's not on?
Were your pizzas all right?
I didn't get one. I just had Nando's, so
all right.
I was full.
Cool.
I hate that. Like, I hate that I like Nando's now. Like the stereotype of people that go to Nando's, they're all such like laddie assholes. Like, their favorite hobby is cheating on the girlfriend kind of thing.
Having sick bants with the mates.
Yeah. But Nando's is actually genuinely nice. Like, the spices.
Yeah.
Although they put peri peri spice on the chips, and I went to put one in my mouth and breathed in, and the spice just hit the back of my throat, and I was like coughing every time I tried to speak and like explain why I'm dying. I couldn't speak, and that was ridiculous because when I was done, my voice was really high pitched and squeaky. I couldn't do anything about it.
Did everyone in the restaurant just stop and look at you like, you fucking amateur?
Well, we were a group of 10, so it was embarrassing enough just within my group without other people.
Oh man, I like Nando's. Do you know what you should do if you ever go back to that bar though? Practice your sleight of hand and make a loaded die that always lands on 6. It has to be the same die that they had.
I reckon, like, because they pull a shot glass out that has a dice in it. I reckon they've got like 10 shot glasses and 6 of them are loaded.
Right. Well, you should make a loaded one. That always falls on 6.
That always wins instead of losing.
And when they hand you the die, just like palm it, switch it out on your hand, and just drop the all loaded one.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, "Oh, 6, that's great."
Until I've done it so many times that all the dice are loaded. Yeah. Everyone's just getting free drinks all night.
And you fucking bankrupt me in one night. Yeah, I don't have anything more to talk about, so if you want to lead us out, that'd be amazing.
Thanks you for listening. We really appreciate that. You can find us on Twitter at UT2cast. You can find us on our website, ut2cast.podbean.com. You can find us on YouTube and iTunes by searching Untitled-2 podcast. And we'll see you next time.
Wicked. Shall I go for cheeky Nando's?
I'll go for a cheeky nosh.